Hey, everybody, I'm Jody-Vance.
I'm George-Affleck.
And I had a whole list of things that I was going to tell you about this edition, the 301st edition of UnSpun podcast. But you know what? I'm just going to say George was right again.
Oh, no.
On
UnSpun. Well, I mean, I don't try to be right. And, there is the whole George fact joke.
You
I mean,
do
it's a
try to
George
be
fact
right.
until it becomes fact.
Right. It's a George fact. But I mean, at 301 episodes, like I didn't even know that our last one was 300. And we've been doing this for a while.
I totally forgot. Quite momentous. I saw people thanking or congratulating us. And I'm like, yeah, I guess we're probably going to pick it up. Pretty big deal. 300 episodes.
We didn't know. So, but I have to say, and this is not blowing smoke, like I've learned, pardon my injury, I have learned that that you have things to teach people, George. Like you have a political position. Hey, stop being mad at George. You have a political position for sure. Like you are a politician and a journalist and a communications expert and a PR person. Like you're many hats. But there are some things that
the guy who does chores around the house generally.
Okay, put Amanda on because I don't believe you. No, I'm kidding.
But
you have a way of explaining some things or suggesting that perhaps this might be a way to go about things, even when there are things you don't really necessarily agree with. And some you do. But when we're going to start this edition, and please don't tune out when I say these two words, park board.
Park board.
Park board. So a press release went out from the mayor of the city of Vancouver about what the next steps are to be a city council run park governing body. Minister Christine Boyle has put forward what?
A motion or a bill or whatever you would call it, I don't know, to basically have a referendum in the next city election.
So you called that. You're like, why not just have a referendum? Ask the voters.
Yeah.
Do you guys want a park board or do you not want a park board? And if everybody says,
yeah, no, exactly. It's interesting. Two things. One, it's too bad that the people like Pete Fry didn't jump on that one. I guess he wasn't listening to our podcast that Christine was, because it could have been, he could have leveraged that and said that was my idea, or whoever on council could have put that out there, or even the current council could have said that and owned it. But now the province owns it. So listen to UnSpun, everyone. However,
you should have watched George sooner. But okay, so let's talk about this. So in the mayor's press release, it stated how much money that dissolution of the park board would save taxpayers. And we'll get into the 0% property increase, whatever, in a second. But first, let's the park board specific. How much money did the mayor's report, the study around it, tell us we would save?
This is the ultimate spin, and how to unspin. $70 million fine print. $70 million. Fantastic. 70 per year? No. Over 10 years.
So $7 million a year?
Yeah, which is about less than 1% of property tax. So I guess we'll get a 1% break on our property tax to a government that's borrowing 30% property taxes since they got elected 3 years ago. So thanks.
Good, perfect segue though to the 0%. It's been confirmed. You said it would happen, and then you're right again. Oh, I think I'm not able to do this podcast.
I'm not even writing policy for these people. They don't even pay me for this information.
It's killing me. Okay. No. It's not. But you said, watch it. You said, watch. He's going to come through going into this. That we're in the election cycle now because the municipal election's coming next fall. We're a year out.
Yes. Well, after 3 terrible budgets, and each one of those budgets, I said, now the only choice he has is to end his cycle of a 0%. That's the only saving thing he'll have because he can't bring in another 10-15% budget increase. And so, as predicted, he came in with 0. Which means I think it's $100 million in cuts. They say, it's a lot.
Where does that come from? I thought we had a leaky roof. I thought the sky was falling. I thought everything was on fire. I thought
Yeah, well, I could say, and I think I talked about this, and I did talk about this with the Vancouver Sun. There was a story about this a couple weeks ago. There is, staff aren't going to come to the budget meeting saying, "Hey, everybody, I got some cuts," unless they're given direction, because they don't want
Right.
to be the bad guys in their department. So I can say without a doubt, there's lots of room, given the focus, to find savings, especially given all the changes with AI and how the working from home, all this stuff. It's like everything's changed, and so 100% there should be an opportunity to find savings, and mostly in the middle management area. Exempt staff, I would say there's probably 400 to 700 exempt staff will get the boot. The union people, that's tough. That's tough to do. So, likely they'll push union people into other positions. Hey, if can I just get people to fill more potholes, please? I don't care if you're union or not union, just fix our streets, our
Right.
sidewalks.
Paint that graffiti over.
Yeah, just that kind of stuff.
Fix that sign.
I don't
Yeah.
need more
Take care of that
planners,
park.
sorry, slowing down the
Yeah.
process. So we'll see. But going
Yeah.
back to the referendum, though, what's interesting will be generally if they put a big referendum question like that on the ballot, it increases turnout and a vote because there's
Right.
more energy, more focus. So people have two reasons to show up to vote. So if they're all the passionate people or not passionate people about park boards, will show up just to vote on that. They care less about the mayor, but they do care or not care about the park board. So
I'd like
that's
to
good
point
news for
out
democracy.
it's good news for democracy. And I would like to point out to every single person who listens or watches our podcast, you can go and vote only about the park board. You do not have to vote for mayor. You can check one thing on the ballot, and one thing is a yes or a no on that, because they're going to word it in a way that confuses the hell out of us, because that's also something that is done. Like how a question is asked in any kind of polling, not even just election polling. Like it's like, how is that asked though exactly? Did you know what you were answering at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This throws a wrench, by the way, in former Mayor Kennedy Stewart's goal to have a decision about wards in cities across the province, because that would have to be a referendum probably as well. And I don't think they're going to put two referendums on a question on a ballot. That would be crazy.
Right. Is he still around?
He's pushing the ward system, proven to be one of the most corrupt governmental structures in the world. Like, I'm just good about my neighborhood. What do you got for me? Oh, you want a tower over here? Sure, give me some cash.
Okay, but before we move on from municipal, and I didn't flag this before we started recording here, but there was some of the conversation around zoning. City council took a vote on where Broadway and the Vancouver plan. And so into neighborhoods and what's heritage and what's not, and what's a tower and how high and which corners and what, and the maps. I mean, I bet you the NIMBYs were losing their minds.
That and the process people, because they're basically throwing out, no more public hearings.
Right.
This whole concept of a pre-zoned area. It's funny though, there's some people that loved the idea of pre-zoning, but not in places that they hate there to be pre-zoning. So it's like, okay. But the intent when I was there with the Broadway corridor plan was that it would be pre-zoned, that you wouldn't have to go through this public hearing process, partly because the basic principle of the plan was it was a mix of rental housing, because Broadway, it's not the most beautiful street to live on. It's busy. And it's the second biggest business district in the province. And so it needs more buildings for offices, for medical. It's the biggest medical community in the province, if not Western Canada.
Yeah.
They need more space for their stuff, whatever they're doing. So, to get that to,
which is
lost
everything
in the process of rezoning with a public hearing and that was the
nothing's
intent of the
built.
Broadway plan. And so this follows through on that. So I say good job, but it's, again, this is the kind of stuff they should have done in year 1, not year 4. Really mixing it up here to put them online. But I guess you could argue, hey, we're brave. We're brave.
Or they see the writing on the wall, because the popularity of this mayor is tanked.
Yeah, the polling is the worst I've seen for a sitting mayor.
And and I don't come from that as an opinion. It is fact. And the young people, because the algorithms are feeding them the negativity of it as well. Like, so there's an amped up and getting out the youth vote. That's why the last municipal election, even what was it, a by-election that had all the lineups, that had only a handful of places where you could vote, that it was hours and hours and hours long in line. Like, that's not who we are. Like, open the polls, do your deal, do your best, and like, let's see how it goes. And I think, again, like you said about the referendum question being on the ballot, I think that there are a lot of young people who have never voted municipally that are activated right now for whatever reason, right or wrong. You know, I believe we're going to see a higher turnout. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I'll finally have something where I'm right, George.
I'll put it at 41%. Maybe
that's higher than 33, so I'd be right. Oh, let's talk about David-Eby, the provincial government. Obviously, we were talking last week about the fallout between Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, saying, well, we're going to put a pipeline right through BC. And David-Eby was like, no. And quite, I don't want to say emotional. I was saying last week how it was like, but his lawyer emotional came out. Like he was dad mad. You know what I mean? Is that
like,
a thing?
Like when I'm trying to teach my kids math?
Yes. But ever since then, why don't you get this? But ever since last week when we talked about this, it has escalated to the point where it's like, no, it's like not a thing, you know, in his press briefings and what have you. You know, I'm reading the transcripts of all of it because you see some clips on the news, but you got to, you know, hear the context and see like there is spin in there. And then there was like straight up, like, no. And then.
Yeah. And of course, this is why this process had to happen so fast for our prosperity, because people like Eby are putting roadblocks in, and Quebec as well, so that it'll never happen. The stuff that we want to happen that's going to help Canada to be more sustainable financially outside US. It's becoming now distant, imagine like it's not going to happen. I don't know. It's like,
but one of the things, and I mean, I have respect for Adrian Dix on a number of levels. I believe that he worked incredibly hard as health minister, and what an incredibly difficult time to be in that role. And he made himself available, and now he is in the other role that is environmental and somebody who would
hydro and all that stuff.
Yeah. And all of the things that are our natural resources and resources that we can utilize to stimulate our economy, both provincially and federally. And listening to him speak about what Danielle Smith was trying to do, and the fact that this is just an idea at this point. It's not like there's a roadblock to something that was, you know, shovels in the ground. And he did point out that the pipeline that the government owns that runs through BC could be utilized to a greater degree, could be, you know, added to, like, there are things that could happen before it's what Danielle Smith's lobbing on. Like,
yeah, but that pipeline was only owned by us because of the NDP and
fair enough,
and the unwillingness to allow a pipeline across BC.
Fair.
And the First Nations. I mean,
totally.
Come on.
A lot of the nations are saying, like, we do not want Alberta in charge of what happens next on our. I mean, there's ways of doing it, and I don't know, like yelling from your pulpit in Alberta at yelling from your pulpit in BC are the way to do it. Because, I mean, and this is a perfect pivot to our prime minister going to visit the president of the United States in the Oval Office and have conversations about tariffs and relationships and what have you. There was no like, I'm going in, you know, whatever, the
elbows up.
Yeah.
Elbows down.
But it wasn't elbows down either. Maybe you think it's elbows down. For me, as somebody who definitely wants that, you know, we're never going to be the 51st state. We need to find a way to calm the waters so that the most vulnerable people in all of this aren't feeling even more pain. I kind of feel like the prime minister is managing the ego of Donald Trump quite with finesse. Like watching that live in the Oval Office, I was like, you know.
Yeah, and there were some brutal things that were said. That stay quiet about. But
didn't he though? Like, can you imagine? Like, what's the alternative? Blow it up and like get into an argument with the craziness? No,
that might be popular here. I don't know. To a certain
popular with who
demographic. I'd go left side of the spectrum. the only thing that we can predict about Donald Trump is that we can't predict Donald Trump. So you can
Exactly.
go in with elbows up or down or sideways or up to your ass. It doesn't really matter. He leaves that meeting, Donald Trump's, hears somebody else say something else, and suddenly he's doing something different. What I do think is different this time is that he realizes that the relationship is more valuable than he realized in his impulsive ways. And he's finally learning about how that relationship works financially, which gets money. So at the end of the day,
And the last person that talked to him said, don't piss off Canada further. Like, I mean, we're a teeny tiny little percentage, but we are the neighbor, right?
we got Portland to invade.
Right. Oh my God.
I love the pictures of the Portland.
Yes.
Of like the memes with, the farmers market,
Oh yeah.
Just like,
it's
here we are,
mayhem, and everybody's in like a blow up dinosaur costume, right? Like there are a bunch of furries out there. Before we go there, I just wanted to let's stick with federal Canadian politics here, because after watching Prime Minister Mark Carney and his delegation, go and have those meetings at the White House, and then the reaction here in Canada, and in particular from Pierre Poilievre and how he is responding. What do you think of the tone of that?
Do you think it's like grasping at straws? He's just trying to find a voice of something, but the Liberals keep stealing all the stuff. So, okay, could you have gone in there and negotiated differently? What would you have done differently? I would have gone with my elbows up, or what? And no, you wouldn't have. Nobody believes that. Come on, we think we would have tried to have a really tight relationship with Trump. I think everybody kind of thinks that. So to think that he would go in there and do something angrier, I don't think so. I'm sure he was hoping that Carney would go in there with that approach, and then he could say, "See, this is the problem. This guy doesn't know how to be a diplomat." So it's really tough. I mean, this is what happens when you lose an election, and then you lose your own seat, and it's. I get a sense, and I've talked about this before, it's hard to keep his caucus united.
Right, you did
in
say
his
that before.
support, because you're kind of a loser. Like, you lost the election and your seat, dude, and you found a way back. But we don't have a choice, but we will once we realize you're not resonating unless something changes. He just has nothing to resonate except for the people who really hated Carney in the first place, which politically, based on the polls, is very much smaller than it was in the last election. So your audience is actually worse than it was before, as far as who supports you and who doesn't. So it's tough. I mean, I feel for him. When you're in opposition and you can't find anything to grab onto,
no footholds.
It's a process. For me, I was elected that 3 years. I was fairly alone in opposition. With very little information and no real training and no support from certainly the staff. They were told not to support me in any capacity in learning or anything. So it was, so I just focused on what I understood and kept it simple and just chewed away at that. And I think that's kind of what you got to accept. Yeah.
But you also brought, because that was when I met you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why we do this podcast. Like, we didn't even really know each other all that well when we started this. I feel like I know you pretty well now, 301 in. But like, that's a lot of hours that you've clocked having to listen to me. And not to mention all the radio we've done together as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you were always available, and you would actually speak from a position of common sense. I don't think, and this comes from a place of neutrality, honestly, from a journalism perspective, I don't think I've ever received a straight answer or heard a straight answer from Pierre Poilievre. It has always been a talking point. He's stuck to the script, which is very much a farther right conservative way, and also a farther left conservative way. And we can talk about both extremes of that spectrum, right? But what I see with Mark Carney, because of what I learned of him when he was the governor of the Bank of Canada, and then what I learned of him when he was navigating the Bank of England through Brexit, he sounds very similar, right? Like, listening to Question Period, where he is speaking in it, he's better at it than I expected, frankly, because he was always just kind of like, steady Eddie, I'm a banker. But them trying to create this, like, he's just Justin Trudeau 2.0, like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not. He's in like have you seen the AI video of all of the politicians being recreated as babies? And
Yeah.
they use Donald Trump speaking while in the Oval when Prime Minister Carney is with the president. And then every time Trump mentions somebody else like AOC or whoever, they pop up as babies reacting to what he's saying. And the
Mhm.
audio track is real. They really did capture Mark Carney as a baby. And I don't want to make light of it, but we're living in a world of AI. And I thought, you know what? That's the difference is
I think the best example that we can also see is what happened to Adrian Dix. You mentioned him earlier when the assumption was he was going to win and be the premier. He could kick a dog and win this election, and then he didn't. And suddenly he's in this, oh, what do I do now? And what happened, and this is very well could happen particularly, was somebody came up and it was John Horgan, middle of the road, kind of every man kind of guy. I can have a beer with this guy. And that resonated with voters. Plus, it was an interesting election. Did he win? Did he not win? But he managed to get control of the House and the legislature. And, and then he won a big victory the next time. And then he won the next one. So, it's a good example. But Dix would have just gone like, he kind of knew he was done when he lost that election. It was really about a process to remove him as leader. And he understood that. And Poilievre doesn't understand that, dude, you lost an election. You should have won. You're going to blame Trump for that? Come on.
He's blaming everybody. Read the book written by Rob Shaw and Richard Zussman called A Matter of Confidence. If you want to know sort of the interworkings of how that all played out, it's a fascinating, fast read. A Matter of Confidence.
The 2017 election, right?
Yeah. So Carney in DC, we could, we'll stay on top of it, but let's go to world peace next. Do you think that with the announcement yesterday and confirmation of phase one of an agreement between the Israelis and Hamas, basically sparked by President Trump, is this Trump's Nobel Peace Prize moment?
Yeah. And if he gets peace in Ukraine, of course. I mean, I've heard, you and I were trying to figure out, we thought we saw something, well, you can't give it a Nobel Prize, Peace Prize to the guy where they have Department of War, but we're not quite sure if that's fact.
I don't think
interesting. No, probably not. But come on, if it was any other president and they did that, come on. I mean, he clearly has influenced Netanyahu in some kind of. He probably said, "Dude, you figure it out now, or I'm pulling the cash. We're pulling her out. We're going to pull out her, and you're just going to be left hanging out here." I'm sure that's the conversation you have with him, and Netanyahu, are you serious? And so that moment he has to go, okay, I guess I better get my ass in gear. So I think it's and the opposite with with
interesting
Russia, where he had the conversation in Russia, like fuck you,
nothing happened. Rolling out the red carpet to Putin did not work.
So he goes on Ukraine's side, and he'll find peace that way potentially by giving him all the war things he needs to make Russia come back. If any other person that anybody 100% would deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, if he does this, well, how can you say he doesn't?
I hope Jose Andres from the World Central Kitchen gets a Nobel Peace Prize for all the work that he has done just feeding people, just all over, everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether there's a war zone or a hurricane or a fire.
He lost some people in Israel, didn't he? A bunch of people killed?
He did.
Yeah.
In
Gaza.
Marked vehicles on a path that was supposed to be safe. Like that
was brutal.
It is something. Please let something be sorted there. And I've spoken to a number of friends on the topic, and it's like, how you feeling? Like those who are really knowledgeable on it, much, much more knowledgeable than I pretend to be. And they're still like just super cautious because there have been agreements before and they don't. So that's what we'll see now. Is this different?
It's such a complex, but having lived very close to Gaza, was in Israel. What's interesting today, I saw the foreign minister today, our call, talking about Canada's role. They're already having conversation with our role being as peacekeepers, peace, whatever we are, peacekeeper, peacemaker, peacekeeper. But slightly not. She's saying not the same. This isn't always, it's not always the same kind of peacekeeping everywhere we go. But it's interesting that we're being approached in that role, because I think it's a good role for Canada, and
I
you know,
agree.
it's going to be very complicated. But the challenge, you have now obliterated a country, of course, and you've damaged the Israeli people with all this killing. Both sides are so vulnerable and sensitive about everything, and feeling the
As you
revenge
would be.
thing. The revenge is
Yeah.
still there.
Yeah.
How do you turn that off? That's a generational, educational. You gotta, you know, I mean, how do we do it with Germany, right? How do we do it with, you know, how do we turn these countries around? How Japan, you know, look at those as models of how we managed to change the thinking and make them allies and with democracies. I mean, that's kind of always our goals that, as democratic countries. And hopefully we can see that kind of change in the Middle East. I think we all know that every day, all of us are the same as humans. 99% of us just want to get up, go to work, make some money, raise our kids, go watch TV.
Be safe. Be safe. Have shelter. Be warm from the cold and shade from the heat and
when you talk about the
water.
1%, it's just 1% of the idiots out there who love war. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
it is a thing. So it will be interesting to see how things play out with regard to where we started this with the Nobel Peace Prize, because this was a moment in time that really nobody else has been able to do. And you see everyone from all sides thanking one person who is resoundingly unpopular with many tens of millions of people in his own country. Like, there are so many things that are unpopular in a country where the government is shut down.
Luckily, they don't
And
give you peace prizes for your own unrest.
there you go.
Maybe
And that's a really good
I
point.
guarantee you what Nobel he won't win, and that'll be the prize for literature.
No.
All caps is not
Oh, I thought you meant the birthday card.
no.
Oh, that one as well. Yeah.
That one.
And we're watching. I mean, we've all learned more about US politics over the last almost 10 years now. Holy moly, it's 10 years now. You know, I didn't know about swearing in of, you know, elected officials during by-elections, during shutdowns, and, you know, what the Speaker of the House is refusing to do right now, what he already did with 2 Republicans the last time there was a shutdown, but won't do it for the Democrat who would
What a
then be
system.
enough votes to create the demand for the Epstein files to be released. Like, it's just,
I mean, the only example I can
don't
think of
you?
like that in Canada is when there has to be a by-election, how the power is in the hands of to delay that as long as possible by the power,
Right.
you know. But you know,
And we see that
we
all
see
the
that.
time.
But
All the time.
this is such a weird take from down there. I find they're so proud of it, but I'm like, you got so many anomalies in this. I feel like we have more checks and balances with our government than they do.
I
Clearly,
agree.
you know, Trump's figured that out.
Yeah.
There's none apparently.
And it's a tough one to watch, is because the most vulnerable people, the most vulnerable of the population are at massive risk. And now, I mean, hello, air traffic controllers.
Yeah, it's scary.
Holy
I'm
moly.
not flying. I wasn't
I
flying the
mean,
States anyways, but you know,
fair.
we'll be flying over the States.
Right?
Please.
And it's not like everything's stopping. Like, oh my
No.
God.
They delay them, but it's interesting to watch. I was watching a thing last night. It's like they delay them down by 30 seconds per flight or something, but that the chaos that creates across the whole, you know,
Matrix.
aviation, like half a minute here, half a minute there, half. It's just like, wow.
Hey, speaking of half minutes, that's all we got. We got
Really?
like literally. I know that flew by. We got one last minute to play in the 301st period. Way to go, Blue Jays, for beating the Yankees.
Yeah.
Let's go, hockey. That's the thing with the ice and the pucks.
Right.
Just for you there, George. Yeah.
Nice.
If
I
you
went
want to follow,
to a soccer game.
what's that?
In Whitecaps a couple weeks ago. Soccer
like this?
game.
Is that what they? Footy. They call it
Footy ball. The ball.
a footy match.
Oh
my God. Did you like
as
it?
Amanda called it. Well, there was beer.
I was going to say, was there beer? Did you eat a hot dog? Was it
And there
delicious?
was some kind of tournament. We won it or something. I don't know.
Yes.
We were as trophies at the end.
Follow along for all interesting facts about all things sport of politics. George
That's my sport. Underscore.
Affleck, George_Affleck on your Twitter. Everywhere else, just call him George Affleck. Somebody took that handle and we like it. We call him underscore off camera. I'm at jody-vance, Jody with a Y, at jody-vance on your socials, all of them. And there's a new social media coming called a Gander. That's Canadian only. You hear about this one?
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
We'll see. We'll see. You know what we'll do right now? See ya.
Goodbye.